Hello everyone. How you all doing? So today we're looking at spreadsheet, and I had to say, okay, probably I need to put a video out there so that anyone who comes in contact with this will just make the whole process in learning spreadsheets to be very easy. And I'm going to take out my time as much as possible to explain the basic concept so that when you watch this video again and again and again and again and again and again, it makes it easy for you. Spreadsheet. When we talk about spreadsheet, the first thing we look at is what's the spreadsheet model? And here's something very important because when we talk about a spreadsheet model, it is used to explore different possible answers. We're simply saying that with a spreadsheet, you can be able to trial so many formulas to see what that particular output would give you. And this is something that is used in financial, um, mathematical, or even scientific. And we sometimes call it the what if scenario. What if I do this? 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 And by exploring all this route, we can be able to change the data in the spreadsheet to see what it would give us. It is so exciting, and that is why spreadsheet is really amazing. Okay, so again, it even allows you to be able to build simple spreadsheet model. We can manipulate it, change the model itself so that it gives us a different result. Okay, so this is actually very cool and amazing. All right, let's move on to the next thing. How do we create and edit a spreadsheet? And by all means, this is going to be a practical video, so it's not just me talking. There will be a lot of series of practice, and the whole idea for that is so that you can have an understanding of this concept. How exciting and how cool is that? So how do we create, how do we edit a spreadsheet model? Now let's talk about the spreadsheet basics. Let's talk about the spreadsheet basics, really. So we'll talk about the spreadsheet. We'll talk about a spreadsheet is a two-dimensional table. When we talk about two-dimensional table, we're simply saying that it has a columns and row. So literally, it has a column and row. You can see the column here, you can see the row here, right? And how do we insert rows and column? How do we delete cells, rows, and column? Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so I'll probably do a tax one, and then I'll use that tax one to just explain everything. Okay, so we are looking at how we can create a spreadsheet to multiply any two numbers together and display the results. So again, I'm going to do this. I have the source file that I'm working with the slide. So I'll probably come here to new and I'll create a spreadsheet, an Excel worksheet, and I'm going to call it tax one. Okay, so what I did there. So I'm going to right click on new, and then go to the Microsoft Excel worksheet. So if I open this, mhm, if I open this, now I can explain that. Again, to insert a column and a row, probably you probably don't know the difference. So I'm just going to use something like this to probably put up a color. Yes. So now if I want to insert a new one, so what I do is I can click on this column right here. Again, insert, and then I'll click on the insert sheet column. And now we'll see a difference. Okay. If I want to do that for the row, I'm going to highlight the row, and okay, I want you to see a difference for this. I'll probably do this, right? So I'll highlight this, and I will go to insert sheet row. So now we have a difference, and the whole idea is for you to see the difference for this. This is what we do in the masterclass. Really, we try as much as possible to ensure that we're able to properly, right, teach learners how they can properly understand, interpret the question as much as possible. We dive deeper than just a past paper to ensure that at the end of the day, they're able to fully understand any question that is being administered to them. And that brings me to a very important point, really, because if I have this, let me do something like this, something that is probably Yeah, okay, something like this. Okay, good. Okay, so this right here, I probably want to make it obvious. Probably a blue, black, right? Okay, so this right here is what we call a cell. Okay, it's called what? A cell. Now, because an intersection between the columns and the row gives you what we call what? A cell, literally. Okay, so this is very important. Now, if you want to delete, how do we delete? Okay, I'm probably going to do something. Okay, I want to delete this. Hmm? Now, to delete this, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to delete, and I'll go to delete sheet columns, and then we see the difference. If I want to delete this, now take note, this is 1, 2, 3. If I want to delete this, I'm going to go to delete, and I'm going to click on delete sheet row. Okay, so probably meant to delete this. But so now, if you want what I did, I undo the work, right? Undo. So I can just redo and then undo. Okay. All right. So I'll click here. Now this is going to select the row. This is going to select the column. So I'm going to click here and then go to delete and then hit on what? Click on the delete sheet row. How cool is that? All right. So we've done this and hope you're enjoying yourself, right? So hope you enjoy yourself on this. Okay. So now the next one is, remember, a column holds up the roof. As you can see, as you can see the roof of your house. So literally that's what the column does, hold the roof. So the columns are denoted with letters, while the rows are denoted with numbers. I tell you with numbers. Okay, so don't forget it. Okay, so the next one is, the content of a spreadsheet cell can be a number. What do I mean? So this right here can be a number 5. This can also hold what we call a text. Literally, I'm spelling text. Literally. Okay, and it can also hold a formula. And don't forget, the formula begins with an equals to. Right. I will explore that. Okay, so let's put a pause on it. Now, there are other ways we can also insert and delete, apart from using the route of coming here to your cell section. You can just click here, right click, and then delete. Okay, and delete. You can also highlight this, right click, and then you delete. Literally, just that way, you can actually do it. See, not so hard after all. Okay, okay, so let's go on. So we have task 1, create a spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm just going to be very nice, and I'm just going to, here on my fill color, I'm going to do no fill. Okay, and right here on the row, and I'll do what? No fill. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to highlight this. Now, I want to explain a very important concept, and I want you to work with me on this. Now, this cursor here is for highlighting. This one is to highlight. Why this one here is to expand. See that? I'm expanding. Yeah. All right. And so what I'm doing right here is I'm expanding the width. See that? I'm expanding the width, expanding the width. Just playing with it, right? Literally. Okay. And why this right here in the row is to expand the height. Now take note of the name. You see the name right there on your screen, height. Why? This is to expand the width. Okay, good. So, all right. Okay, so I'm trying to make this as engaging as possible so you don't fall asleep. Okay, because you don't have to fall asleep. It's quite exciting. So I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to delete this. So let's do that. They say what? Create a spreadsheet to multiply any two numbers together and display the result. Okay, so to multiply any two numbers, we can have this, right? So we can have 2 and 4, and here we can have equals to, let's multiply, right? So I have this multiply by this, and I'm going to hit on enter. See? Okay, not so hard after all. So what I did was, we call that a cell address, right? So instead of doing 2 times 4, okay, literally you can also do that, but that becomes a constant if you do that, right? So you can actually do that as a base, because again, we're just starting it off. But again, I'm just going a bit further so that you can have the gist of the lesson. So again, we use a cell address, and that cell address is denoted with what? A1, and then we have what? The B1. Okay, and I will explain what that. Remember, we talked about a cell, and a cell is an intersection between this and this. So when they come together here, between the column and the row, we have a cell. and we have what we call a name box that tells us the cell we are currently on. Yeah, a name box. And this right here is the formula bar where we can insert our functions, we can insert our formulas, and it can be extended by clicking on this formula bar to bring it down a bit so that we can see all the long formulas. Okay, so we're getting the gist of the lesson. Okay, all right. So let's look at the next one. Create formula using cell referencing. Now we've referenced the cell. And how do we reference the cell? We reference the cell by what the cell name is. So here, instead of saying 2, we use a cell reference called what? A1. Instead of saying 4, we use a cell reference called B1. Okay? All right. Good. So hold that. Hold that thought. Okay? Now, if you've created it, you probably have something like this. And so let's see how we can literally do that. Multiplying two numbers. And I'm going to do that. So this will probably be, okay, so I'll probably just do everything here. So this will be tax. Now I'm going to right click this and put A here. And yes, I'm going to do +1 to create a new sheet. And this is going to be B here. Okay, so I'll come here to say multiplying two numbers. Okay, so what do we have here? We have, now when the numbers are long, okay, for example, I'm just going to type in so many long numbers, and then I have this. I'm going to have this as well, right? Probably this. So now what will happen if I reduce this a bit? See, it gives me exactly what this is. Now, this simply means that there are numbers here. And if I multiply this, which is this, that's A2, multiply by A3. If I hit on enter, see what it's giving me, right? It simply means that there are other numbers, but the cell is not, the memory of that cell is not enough to be able to contain everything. Okay, so now I need to extend it, and now I have everything here. Okay, so it's still not enough. I probably need to extend it a bit, and it will give me everything. But now take note of this. Even when I'm even extending, it's still giving me what? Plus 13, because it's a lot, right? It's a lot of numbers when we are multiplying. The numbers are just too much. Okay, so again, you must show the content of all cell fully in your spreadsheet printout so that your methods and result can be seen. Okay, using arithmetic operators in formulas. Now we talked about the fact that in arithmetic operators we have the following operations. We have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and indices, which you use, which is called your power. The operators are the symbols. Yeah. The operators are the symbols. Okay, and this is a good example. If you've been following me since we started in this video, you probably noticed that we did equals to, of course, the formula begins with equals to a something multiplied. So that's an example of what we do with the operators, with the cell reference and with the operator. So for add, we can have equals to something here, a cell reference with the arithmetic operator, and we have that. So literally what this means is you're taking the content of cell A2 and you're adding it to the content of B2. And for subtract, we use a dash. For multiply, we use an asterisk. For divide, we use a forward slash. And for indices, we use this part, the symbol here. Okay. All right. So this is very important. Okay. So this means to the power square of it. Okay. So this is very important. Okay. To the power of it. So for example, A2 raised to the power of 2 simply means that whatever content we have, whatever values, whatever content of that cell that has A2 now is going to multiply it by what? 2. Right? So this is important. Okay. Okay, good. So hope you're learning. Hope you're getting the gist of it. Just let me know in the comment section if you actually learning. It's very important for me that you do. Okay, so again, the arithmetic operators we have your addition, which is the plus symbol, your subtract, which is the dash, your multiply, which is the asterisk, the divide, which is the forward slash, and then you have your indices. So this is very important. Okay, so let's scroll down. So we have task 2. They say we should create a spreadsheet that looks like this. So let's see how we can really do that. So I'm going to save this and close, and I'll come here to probably right click and click on the new, and then Microsoft Excel worksheet, and I'll do tax 2. Okay, and by all means, let me know if you need this lessons source files, and it will be sent to you on the drive in the video description. Okay, so yeah, and for free, literally. Okay, so I'm gonna open tax 2. Okay, and I'm gonna make it like this. So we have numbers. What else do we have? So we have first number. I hope I'm typing it well. First number. Okay, so it's first number. So I get to use the formula bar to edit it. Okay, then I have the second one, second number. Okay, so I have this. So now I have, this is going to be 6, this is going to be 2. Good. And I have the operations here. Okay, so for the operations here, what do I have? I have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and then we have the indices. Okay, so where did you go to? Right, so multiply, divide. Yeah, so we have this. Now again, just a bit of this, we need to click here. Now you need to click here. This is very important. Now you click in the triangle at the top left simply means that you're selecting all of them, and you want every value here, all the content in the cell, to fit into this particular word cell. So if I take my cursor here, we talked about the cursors and their meaning. So this is to expand it. So if I double click 1, 2, right? All it together, 1, 2, very fast, right? Okay, right? That will have it. So I can come here, go to purple, right here, go to purple, and I'm going to do click. Now this is, again, this is the fill color. Okay, there's the fill color, and here is the font color. The font color is your text, and this fill color is for the background. Okay, so I'm going to click on this right here, and I'll click on this right here. Okay, I'm pretty sure that is it. Okay, probably with a bold. So I'm going to bold this. I'm going to bold this. Okay, so I'll probably adjust this here. So let's see how we can perform this really. So again, we're using the arithmetic operators to do this. So we're just having equals to, now B2 times B3, and I'll hit enter. Now I want to do it, I want to give this as a classwork. So you can just pause the video and try to see if you can do the subtract, multiply, divide, and indices. Can you do that for me? Okay, let's go. And okay, so once you're done with it, you can now play the video, and then you can see what you've done. So now for subtract, you have equals to this right here, B2. Now remember, it's in B, column B, and the row is what? 2. So you have what? B2 minus, right? And here again, you have B3. Why is it B3? Because this is in column B and is in row 3. So 2 is in column B and 3 is in what? In row 3, which is in row 3. So very important. So here I have what? B3. Okay. Now another thing that makes it faster for you is if you click on equals to, you can just select on the cell and it's going to pick the cell reference for you. So we have B2 multiply, and we use asterisk. Okay, we use asterisk, and then I have what? B3. Okay, so I hit enter. So that is that. So this is very important. Now for divide, I'm going to use this, right? Let me get my on screen keyboard so you can actually see on screen keyboard on screen. So you probably just see the things I'm typing. Good. Okay, so right here, I'm going to have equals to, right? Equals to, and then I'm going to pick this, right? And this is going to be minus, right? So the minus here, and then you have B3 here, okay? And then you can hit on enter, right? So it's making that sound. I probably need to go, but probably I'll just have to just use this to just show you what you need to do here without clicking on it. Okay. All right. So now I have this. So the next thing I'm going to do is equals to, right? For the indices, I have B2, right? And then I have right here this. Let me get it. Trying to find it on my keyboard. Yes, right there. No, for my keyboard is in 6, right? And I have it here. So this is B2 raised to the power of B3. And if I hit on my enter, we have this. So this is one way to do it. Okay, so this is very important. Now I realize, yes, there are faster ways to do it, probably with sum, product, and powers, and this can be used to perform these particular tasks. But hey, learning, we're taking it one step at a time. Okay, now other mathematical operations. Now, when you're giving questions like this, probably on paper, how do you do this? Now, the first thing you do is now looking at what we call a BODMAS or BODMAS. Let's go with BODMAS for Excel. So we need to remember this BODMAS. Now, this means that the brackets first, and then we have the indices, which is the power and square root, and then we have DM, which is division and multiplication, and it moves from the left to right. We have the AC, which is the addition and subtraction, and it moves from the left to right. So now let's go back to what we have done. Now, if we go back to what we have done, you see that you have to do the bracket first, BODMAS, right? And once you do the bracket first, you have to do everything inside the bracket first, and then you have to look at the first indices, which is the power or square root. So you look at the power first, and after the power, you can now move into what? Now the power has been done. What's the next thing? We know we have what? Division and multiplication. So is there a division here? No. Is there multiplication here? Yes. So the multiplication is going to be the next step. And then you're going to do what? Your addition. Now, once you're done with everything on the bracket, you can now, right, add it with this. So now let me show you what I've done. This is exactly a prototype of this. And again, if you don't have the slides, okay, for this, just let me know, okay, so that we can see how you can probably get a copy for it, right? I'm not saying if it's free, but hey, right? So just send a message. Okay. All right. Now, so the order of the mathematical operation is very important. Okay. So again, all things in bracket first, all the indices, divide and multiply, add and subtract will be the fourth. So again, the bracket is first, all indices is second, divide and multiply is the third, add and subtract is the fourth, and it goes from the left to the right. All right, self-referencing. This is something we will be discussing, gisting throughout this video. This is what we do in the masterclass, really. We try as much as possible to ensure that we're able to properly, right, teach learners how they can properly understand, interpret the question as much as possible. We dive deeper than just a past paper to ensure that at the end of the day, they're able to fully understand any question that is being administered to them. Self-referencing. We'll talk about self-referencing. We're talking about the relative self-referencing and the absolute referencing. So when we talk about the relative referencing, what are we saying? We're saying that, again, it is a method of addressing cells, okay, where the reference to the cell changes when the formula is copied to another cell or value, okay, when they are replicated. Now, what are we saying? We're simply saying is, if I copy this, I'm going to, now this is to replicate. If I replicate this, what will happen? See that it's giving me what? 1. Why? Let's look at it. Why is it giving us 1? Because here we have, what's this? We have 2, which is B3, right? Raised to power what? B4. And B4 is empty. But remember, 2 raised to power 0 is what? It's 1. Right? 2 raised to power 0 is what? It's 1. Okay? So it is so important that we know how to do this. So now what will happen? You can see that the formula is changing. So again, it is a method of addressing, right, the cells where reference to a cell, and invariably notice that relative referencing changes where when the formula is copied to another cell. I'm going to say it again. Okay, yes, it's a method of addressing cells, but the most important thing you need to know is the formula or the cells changes when the formula is copied to another cell of value. So that particular cell here, it changes, right, when it's copied. So if I'm copying this to this, it's not going to be the same thing. It's going to change when it's copied to another cell. We had 36, we're expecting 36, and we got a 1. That is because the referencing is changing, and we see that as relative. Hope that makes sense. Good. The next one is absolute. Now, when we talk about absolute referencing, what are we saying? We're saying that it remains constant no matter where it is copied or moved within the spreadsheet. So if we're copying it, we're replicating it, it's remaining what? Constant. It's not changing, it's still the same thing. And hey, stay with me because this is a very long video, right? I don't want to do this in part. I don't want to do this in part 1, part 2, part 3. I just want to give it to you a full dose so that you can break it. You can break it as much as possible. Probably pause when you're done watching a bit, and then now to some of my students, when they do that in the comment section, they put a timestamp. I stopped here and I'm going to resume here. I don't want to break it. I just want to make it a full video so that you can spend your time watching and practicing with me. Okay, I'm going to be with you all through the process. All right. So absolute referencing simply says that it remains constant no matter where it is copied or moved within the spreadsheet. And we use it to lock the reference, really. So we lock that reference or that range or cell so that when we are copying it, that particular cell remains the same. Okay. And we use a dollar sign right here, a dollar sign to create an absolute what? Reference. Now let's see this. Let's see how we can probably do this. Now we have a tax 4 here. Okay. We have a tax 4 here. And let's see, do I have a tax 4 here? So I don't have a tax 4 here. So let's see how we can do this. Okay, so this was given as tax 3. Okay, so for my tax 4, I'm going to save this and I'll create a tax 4. Okay, so I'm going to right click, new Excel, Microsoft Excel worksheet, and I'm going to give this as a tax 4. And I'm going to open it, and I'm going to have this, right? So now let's look at it. Let's look at the question. Our ability to be able to interpret it when you have a question like this is important. We call it spreadsheet model, how you're able to interpret it, right? Create a spreadsheet to display the times table for any number you choose to enter. Create a spreadsheet showing values and formula. For this task, you need to design and create data model to calculate and display the times table for any number that you choose, right? You must therefore have a single cell that contains the number to use for all the calculations. Okay? Yes. In this model, you can place a simple number, such as 2. Of course, you're not expected to use 2. I'm going to use 2. But you're not expected to use, so you can use 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and probably 10. Okay? For this exercise in cell A1. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I'll come here and I'm going right here in A1, I'm going to type in 2. Okay, good. Now, so that you can easily tell if you've made a mistake with the formula later on, type the label times table. So I'm going to copy this because of time. Copy this, and I'm going to paste it here. Right click, and I'll just paste. I'll probably just make it an active cell when I duplicate it and just paste. Right. So I'm not keeping any formatting, whatever. So this is it. Okay. So the next thing is in B1, right? Don't forget cell reference A1, B1. Now, you're going to create the times table in cell A3 to B12. A3 to B12. Let's look at it. A3 to B12 right here. Okay. Now they said these cells in column A holds the numbers to multiply by, and the cells in column B holds the formula to calculate the answer. So what this simply means is that we're going to move the cursor into cell A3 and then enter 1. Okay, so you get the gist. A3, I'll enter 1. This, I'll enter 2. Now, we already have an idea till we get to what? 10. So I'm going to highlight this and giving Excel an idea, right, of how to analyze it, and then we can now do an autofill till we get to what? 10. Good. All right. Now the next one is B is to hold the formula to calculate the answer. So this is going to be a multiplication times table. So I'm going to click here, right, to select again here, columns and row, and then double click this. So now I have this. So I have equals to, right, is to 1 times 2, 2, 2 times 2, 4, 3 times 2, 6, 4 times 2, 8, 5 times 2, 10. You know, we did it. We did it back then in school, but now you even did it in your key stage 2, right? Yeah. You didn't do it? Sorry. Okay, but I'm pretty sure you did it. Literally. Okay, it was a good experience. All right. So I have this right here. Okay, so I'll probably just get a space here. So I'm going to highlight this. And right here, I have equals to this right here times this right here. We hit enter. Now, I've gotten my formula. All I can do is just to replicate this, right? But this is not giving us the 1 times 2, 2, 2 times 2, 4, 3 times 2, 6, 4 times 2, 8. It's not giving us that. Okay, maybe there's an 8 somewhere for some reason. Hallelujah, right? It gives it good, right? And 5 times 2, 10, but it's giving us 15. And I'm very sure in your math, right? 0580, I'm very sure in your math, 5 times 2 is not 15. No, it's not. So how do we fix this? So for us to do this, really, now what we did was relative. Now, because it is changing. So look at the formula. The formula is key. So we have A4 times A2, right? The first one is A3 times A1, which is this times this. And that's how we want it. We want the A1 to be constant. But hey, it's changing because look at this. We have A2, A3, A4. So let's do that. A2 is space. That's why you have 2 times space, empty cell to be 0. And then we're having 3 times, look at this, A4. What's A4? Okay, for this, this is going to give us A5 times A3. So again, this A5 times A3 is what? 1. That's what we have this. And here, we're so lucky. Okay. All right. So we're having A6 times what? A4. So what's A4? 2. So it's wrong. Because the reason why is because we're meant to make an absolute. So to do this, I'm going to highlight this. I'll use the first one, highlight this, and then hold my FN. Okay, let me share my keyboard. So I'm going to hold my FN, okay, FN, and then I will do my F4. But it's probably not going to work because I need to highlight this. So I need to highlight this, and I'll hold my Fn and F4 together. Fn right here and F4 together, right? So I'm going to do that. So Fn and then I'll hold my F4. So this is not even giving us F4 here. So I'm going to hit on my F4 here, and then I have the dollar sign there. Now, if you're not having it for some reason, no need to panic. Probably undo this. You can just put a dollar sign here by each side, right? Come here, put the dollar sign. Now we'll put a dollar sign in the column, which is A, and we'll put a dollar sign in the row, which is 1. And it will give us the same thing. So now if we hit on enter and we replicate this, guess what? It is now 10 times 2, 20. 9 times 2, 18. 8 times 2, 16. So good. Literally so good. So I'm going to save this. Save this. Right. So that helps us to understand this. And showing the accuracy of data entry is so important. Now, when you're asked to create a data model that looks like this, please listen and let's focus, right? Make sure that you copy the model and the question exactly as shown. Now, this simply means that whatever you have on the question paper, you have to translate it exactly the way it is. You do not try to make improvement or use other features when you're not being asked to. You don't use colors or formatting when you're not asked to unless you're asked to do so. This is very important. You're not to insert rows or columns. You're not to remove rows or columns containing the blank spaces unless you're instructed to do so. And when you type in data into your spreadsheet, okay, from your question paper or from another document, you must make sure that you've entered or what you've entered is identical to the original source document or question. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, do not rush, right? Some people just want to rush, just want to do this. Don't rush. Okay, check carefully that whatever you've entered is 100% of accuracy, right? It's 100% of accuracy. So do not try to rush. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, it's so important for you as a student. Okay, this is even more important when you're working especially because one error, right, could actually have an impact in your work. Now, for formulas, when you enter formulas, you have to be careful because one tiny bit of error in your formula could stop the spreadsheet working altogether. Really, so important. Create a data model. How do you create a data model? The first thing you have to look at is you have to, we talk about merge cells and wrap text, and I'll explain this. We'll talk about merge cell. It simply means that we are combining two or more cells to create a single cell. That's what you're doing. Literally, we're combining two or more cells to create what? A larger cell, right? So instead of having A1 to C1, we're now having merge cell A1. Okay? Wrap text, on the other hand, allows you to display the content of the cells on multiple lines instead of just a single straight line. So we wrap the text, what you call your text wrap. Okay? Use formulas. We've talked about use formulas. Okay? We've talked about the simple operators like your addition, subtraction, multiplications, which is the asterisk symbol. For addition, the plus symbol. The subtraction is the dash symbol. The multiplication, the asterisk. Division, the forward slash. And you have the indices for this. Now, when we talk about the name cell and name range, this is giving or assigning a customized name to that cell or assigning a customized name to the range. What's the range? Combinations of multiple cells. You're highlighting across two cells, right? It's spanning across one cell. Okay, so this is very important. And the reason for name cells and name ranges is to make it easier to reference to that cell. Again, it improves readability, right? People, instead of that long formula, right, equals to A1 to D4, right? We can just say equals to Ajiro Tech. Yeah. And yes, this is not hello everyone, welcome to Ajiro Tech. Ajiro Tech. No. No, okay. I know, not at all. Right? It just equals to Ajiro Tech, literally. And you have it. Okay. Again, manageability, to be able to manage your spreadsheet, because again, too many formulas simply means that you can just make a mistake. But with a name range, with a name cell, a customized name to that range makes it easy to be able to manage your spreadsheet. Okay, tax 5. So let's do tax 5, right? So I'm going to save this. Yay, saved it. Okay, so I'm going to create tax 5. So I'm going to right click on this and I'll click on new and I'll click on the Microsoft Excel worksheet and I'll click on type tax 5. Hope you're excited in this class and hope you're learning from this video. Literally, if you're in my class, you trust me, you enjoy a lot. Really, you do. You do. Really. Right? Okay. So open the spreadsheet saved in tax 2. Change the text, tax 2. Right. I'm gonna open it. Okay, done. Okay. They said change the text in cell A1. Okay. To please enter two numbers in cell B2. Okay. To please enter two numbers in cell B2 and B3. In cell B2 and B3. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to use this. Copy this. Copy. So this is going to be tax 5. So file, save as, and I'm going to make this my tax 5. All right. I think I have a tax 5 already. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, I did that. I did that. So I'm going to replace it. So that's fine. Yes, replaced. Okay, so I'm going to, right here, now go to my formula bar and I'm going to do this. So backspace, paste this. Okay, so I have this. Hit and enter. Okay, so they said merge cell A1 and B1 and wrap the text in this merge cell. Okay, so A1 and B1. So I'm going to highlight the two of them. And right here, I'm going to go to merge cell. I'm going to merge it. Okay. And I'm going to wrap the text. Now, we're wrapping the text because we don't want it in a long straight line and we don't want to expand it. So we just want it to wrap across multiple lines. So I'll come here to the wrap text. Done. Now, it's there, but you can actually see it. So I need to adjust the width of the row like this. I'm adjusting like this. Adjusting like this. Okay. So I'm adjusting like this. Good. Adjust it like this. All right. Okay, so this is way cooler. Like this. Okay, so I'm going to save. I'm going to save my spreadsheet. Literally, I'm going to save my spreadsheet. So I'm going to save it right here. All right. Okay, so hope we're having fun. Right? So let's go on. Now, name cells and ranges. This is what we do in the masterclass, really. We try as much as possible to ensure that we're able to properly, right, teach learners how they can properly understand, interpret the question as much as possible. We dive deeper than just a past paper to ensure that at the end of the day, they're able to fully understand any question that is being administered to them. We've talked about it, right? We said that a name cell refers to the single cell that has been given a name, and a name range refers to the range of cells that has been given a name. So again, a customized name, right, refers to that range of cells that have been given that name. So how do we do this? Okay, so I'm going to do this right here. So I'm going to have this. I'm going to highlight this, delete this. I'm going to delete this. Yep. So I'm going to highlight. Okay, for this, I'm probably going to click on this and then go to formulas. And then right here, I'm going to define the name. So I'm going to click here, define the name, and I'll call this to be multiplication title. Multiplication. Right? So now I want to explain this a bit. Now you see this. Now let me explain this. Now you see that right here we have equals to sheet 1, and then we have an exclamation mark. Now this is the name of the sheet, which is what? Sheet 1. And then this is what? The cell reference, which is what is going to reference that. Now take note, it's seen as a dollar sign. That is because it is absolute. Now look at the scope here. The scope here is in the workbook. What do we mean by workbook? Workbook is a collection of worksheets. So it simply means that we can reference that cell from across all the worksheet. Okay, good. Yes. So if I click on OK, right? If I click on OK, now it is changed from A1 to multiplication. Now, if I do this, okay, I'm going to click equals to right here, equals to multiplication. Now we have it, multiplication. If I click on multiplication here and double click on it, hit on enter, see, we have this. Okay, probably not that way we want it, but we have it. Now, and if I do this, highlight this, now this is a range cell, a range, right? Again, the range of cells, right? If I go to formulas and I'm going to define the name, okay, I'm going to have probably like multiply two numbers. Okay, multiply. Now it doesn't work with a space. So for us to bring in two words, we have to use an underscore. Okay, so we have multiply two numbers. Okay, this is becoming too long. So just say multiply numbers, really. Okay, so again, just to explain this, we have the name here. We have the scope. The workbook, we've talked about the workbook is a collection of worksheets, so we can be able to reference it in any part of the worksheet. And this shows us the name of the sheet and then the range. Here you see that it has A6 to what? B10. And I'm going to click on what? Okay. So now if I come here, we have this. If I come here, what am I doing? If I come here and I right here and I hit an equals to multiply numbers, if I double click on this and I hit on enter, there we have it. There we have it. We have it there. Bravo. Just clap for me. Clap. I've done something so good. Clap for me. Okay? All right. All right. So let's look at the next one. Let's look at the next one. So we've explained the name cell and the name range. Again, the name range refers to the range of cell that's been given a customized name, and the name cell is that single cell that have been given a customized name. Formulas and functions. What's a formula? What's a function? A formula is a written statement by the user that instructs Excel to perform a specific calculation. Okay, so it's instructing Excel to perform what? A specific calculation or operations on the data within a spreadsheet. Now, when we talk about formulas, we know that formula begins with an equal sign. Again, formulas comprises of the cell references, the constants, which is equals to 2 times 4, the operators, and even the function. So this is very important. It can also range from simple arithmetics to even complex functions like if, whatever, if, whatever, and all the if sum, right? And the conditional logic. If this is this, give this, and all the rest. Okay, so when we use formulas, we can now automate calculations. We can analyze it. We can derive meaningful insights from their data set. Okay, functions. What's a function? A function is a predefined formula that performs a specific calculation. So that's what function. So for every function, it's performing a specific thing. For every function, it's performing what? A specific thing. Right? So it performs what? A specific what? Calculation or operation. And they are provided as argument. So what do you mean by argument? It simply means that these arguments are, or your cells that are separated by commas. They are arguments. Your cell references that are separated by commas. They are your arguments. So again, they perform specific calculations using the cell provided as argument or ranges. And the reason why this is to reduce the need to write a very long and complex formulas. It's right equals to A1 plus B2. It's too long. And I feel your pain. Really, I do, because there is a function to help you out. So instead of having it equals to A1 plus B2, and there are times you have to go through that stress in the question paper. I know it's an exam, go through it, but sometimes it's easier to just use a function to get it done. So again, we have other functions like the sum, the average, the if, the VLOOKUPs, and by all means, if you're very conversant with Excel, you can just skip to parts that are very important to you, right? And you can have the fun with it. Okay, so again, we have the function name, right? And then we have the parentheses. So again, you probably see something like this. You probably see something like, I'm trying to get this, so probably I'll just get this. So probably something that equals to a sum, and then you have A1, 2. We use a colon to represent 2, and then we have D5. Something like this, right? Or let's make it more practical. So we can have A1 to what? A10. So again, this is a function name, right? This right here becomes your argument, and then you have the parenthesis here and here, opening and closing. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about the functions. So we have sum and auto sum. When we talk about sum, it is one of the most commonly used functions because again, it gives you the total. Sum is for total. Okay, it can be able to add all the numbers, total it for you. Okay, and when you see something to give the total of profit or whatever, there is no function seen as total. It's sum, right? The auto sum is just a quick summation, a quick way, right, without having to type in your formulas manually. But there is going to be a break in the formula in your auto sum if there's a space. As long as there's no space, it's just going to solve everything for you. It's just going to give you a summation, a total of that particular what value. Hope we're learning. For average, it's giving you what? The arithmetic mean of the group of numbers. Okay, so again, let's talk about the formulas. Remember, formula beginning with an equals to. So you have equals to sum, numbers, comma, number one, comma, number two, comma, all these are arguments, or you can just have a range for it. Again, for average, you have equals to average, and then you have your parenthesis, all right, which is the open and close one. You have your number one, comma, number two, and it goes on and on. When we talk about max, right, it finds the largest number in a set of value. That's what max does. What you call your maximum. Okay, so it finds the largest number, okay, in a set of values. So again, take note, it ignores empty cells, it ignores text, it ignores logical values like true and false. So it finds the largest number. So it's useful when we probably need to identify the highest, right? You have 1 to 10, which is the highest. Of course, you know it's 10, but we need a formula for it. Literally, we need a formula for it. And that's where the maths comes in. Now, for your mean, it means the minimum, right? So it finds the smallest number in a data set, in a set of values. Again, it can be applied to a range of cells, individual cell referencing, or a combination of both. It also ignores empty cells. Again, we have equals to mark. Your functions must be typed in upper cases. So please take note. Your function must be typed in upper what cases. Your minimum, the same thing. Okay, so we have this task 6. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I've done a good job. I've been an exceptional teacher. I guess you would agree. Okay, all right. So we have task 6, right? Copy the spreadsheet model and calculate. So the first thing you do when you're provided with a CXV is to open it, right? And then you go to File, and then go to Save As, and then ensure you save it as what? In an Excel workbook. Now, the reason why you need to save it as an Excel workbook is that the CSV holds basic formatting. It doesn't store formulas. Let's just get to the juice of the whole story. Your CSV doesn't store formulas. And that's why it's important for you to save it in an Excel workbook. True story. It's one of my students who wrote the area IGCSE 2024 forgot to save as an Excel workbook, even though the warnings were there in the question paper. Yeah, I call that a warning. Okay, forgot, was got carried away, did his job, it was flawless, closed it, opened it. Yeah, no formula to print. So it's very important that you save in an Excel workbook, right? All right, so I'm going to save this. So I have this. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to click here to select the columns. This is going to select columns and row. And I will take my cursor here, this cursor here, double click on it, and I have this. Okay, so now let's see how we can apply what we have learned. They said, again, copy the spreadsheet model and calculate the total numbers of hours worked by all of these 5 people. Okay, the average numbers of hours worked per person. Okay, the maximum numbers of hours worked by any of the 5 people, the minimum numbers of hours worked by any of the 5 people. So we have this. Let's see how we can do this. Now for total, I have this. Probably going to extend this a bit. Do we have to do any formatting here? Yes, we have. Yes, we do. So here, I'm going to bold this. What again? Yes, I have the name and hours. I'm going to bold it. Total, I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to bold it. So I have this. So equals to, right, sum. I have sum here. So I'm going to double click on the sum, and I'm going to highlight this, right? Because this is seen as a range. I want to find the total of hours worked here. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to close it with a closing with a parenthesis. I'm going to hit on enter. So I have this 80. Now the next one is average. So I'm going to have equals to average, right? Average here, and I'm going to highlight this, right? And I'm going to close it. Again, is the range. It's still the same thing if I do this. Okay, it's still the same thing if I do this, equals to average, and I do this, comma, this, comma, this, comma, this, sorry, the first one, this, comma, and this. It's still going to be the same thing. So instead of going to that stress, you can just do equals to average, right? And I'm going to highlight everything here, and I'll close it, right? So B4 to B8, and I'll hit on enter. Now the maximum is equals to max, okay, equals to max, and here I'm going to highlight this. Now this is going to find the maximum across the 5 people. So I have this, I'll close it here, and I'll hit on enter. So it's going to give me 26. Now for minimum, I'm going to hit equals to mean, right? This is going to return the smallest number, and I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to have this, right? My opening and close parenthesis, and this is going to give us the total, which is a sum, the average, the maximum, and minimum. What about auto sum? How do you do auto sum here? So again, I'll just click on this and go to formulas, and right here I'll click on auto sum. Watch this. So it's going to pick it automatically, and if I hit on enter, it's going to give me the same thing. So it's a very quick process without having to type in, right, the function. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to look at the next one here. Hope we're having fun, right? Okay. The next one is int and round. Now for int, again, int simply means integer. Okay, so it's used to describe a whole number. That's what we use it for. We use it to what? Describe a whole number. Okay, so that's what we use this for, to describe what? That whole number. Okay, so again, it's to describe the whole number with no decimal or fraction. So what it's simply saying is that it takes the whole number part and ignores all digits after a decimal point. So for example, if I'm going to make this an int, for example, right, it's going to ignore the 80 and will only pick the 12. Hope that makes sense, right? So let's see how we can do that first. We have tax 7. So I'm going to save this, close this, and I'm going to open this, right? So I'm going to click on File, Save As, and I'll change it to an Excel workbook, and I'm going to save this. Okay, good. Again, I'll click here to select my columns and row, and I will double click to have this. Now let's see, is there any formatting here? So we have rate of pay. So I'm going to bold this. What else? I have name and hours. I'm going to hold my control to select both of them. Now I'm holding my control with my keyboard. My control here. So I'll click on the first one. I'll hold my control, click on the control, hold my control, and click this to select both of them. That's what I'm doing. Now, so if I click on bold, instead of doing it individually, I can do all of them at once. Okay, so we're moving at the space from beginner's level, we're going to intermediate. See that? Taking you on the journey. So now what else again? We have this, the total. I'm going to highlight this, bold it, highlight this, bold it. Now the same one. Scheduling away my quiz did an extra 4 hours work. Change the spreadsheet that you created in Tax 6 to show the new figure. The manager, Ajiro ND, wants to see the average numbers of hours work displayed as an integer value. So again, scheduling was changed, did an extra 4 hours. So that's 17 plus 4 is 21. So we're going to do that. So again, to do this, I have equals to 17 plus the 4 hours, right? And I have this 21. Okay, so that's how we do it. Okay, so here I'm going to have my equals to sum, right? And I'm going to highlight this, close it, right? I have my equals to average. I'm going to highlight this and I'll close it. Again, this is equals to average, the B4 to B8, and I'll hit an enter. Okay, so I have equals to maximum, which is max. Okay, so I'm going to click on the max. I'm going to highlight this. Okay, and I'm going to close this. It's something we did in the other one. I don't want that sound. Probably have to close it. Yeah, and then the minimum equals to min, which is the minimum. I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to highlight. Okay, I'm going to highlight, right? And I'll close this and I'll hit on what? Enter. Now, for us to be able to find the integer, okay, so this is going to be equals to int, okay, and then I'm going to click this because again, the manager wants to find what? The average number of hours worked. So I'm going to close this. If I hit on enter, it's going to give me 16. Why? It's only going to take the whole number part and will ignore the decimal part. Now, when it comes to the round, right, it is used to round a number to a specific number of digits. Okay, so it rounds up the numbers to the right or left of that decimal point. That's what it's doing. So it can round up numbers to the left or right or decimal point. Now, it's very useful when we are controlling the position of numeric value. So essentially, for the round, we are summing up that number to numbers of digits you want to give it. Is it 2? Number of digits could be 2. Numbers of digits can also be what? Can also be 4, can be 0, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so this is very important. All right, now this is very important. Now let's do this. Okay, so that probably this gives you an idea. Okay, so this gives you an idea. All right, so I'll come here to round. So again, we use equals to round. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is the fact that we have what we call a scale. So here, for example, is a scale, right? So we can have 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we know that anything below 4, 3, 2, 1 is going to be rounded down. Anything 5 to 9 will be rounded up. Okay, to 1, this is going to be what? To 0. Okay, for round. Okay, so this is very important. So I have round, and what have we rounded? They said what? The average number of hours worked to the rounded to the nearest hour. Okay, so rounded to the nearest hour simply means that I'm going to pick this. I was showing a scale because I did equals to round. Okay, so now we have the parenthesis. So I'll pick this, comma, what the nearest hour? That's 0. And I'll close this because 0 means if it's 1 hour of to the other hour or 1 hour, make it to 2, 3, we can actually do that, right? So if I hit on enter, this would give me what? 17. And why is it giving me 17? Because in the scale right here, 8 is above. So it's going to sum it as what? 1. So anything that's 5 and above is going to be rounded off to what? 1. And then 8 here is 1. 16 plus 1 is what? 17. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to close this. Hope we're learning. Now from this is where it gets a little bit different. Because here we have round up. Okay? So again, when we are rounding up, it is away from 0. And that's it right here. So again, it's going to round up everything away from 0. Okay? Now, and it has the formula the same way as the round. Now, the round up, and round down is almost identical. The difference is usually the formulas. So if they say rounded down and use round up, you've lost the mark in the formula wise. So it's important to know when it's rounded up, rounded down, and when it's just what? Round. Okay, so this is very important. Okay. So again, we have the number and then we have the number digit. For round down, okay, we have rounded number towards 0. So everything goes towards 0. So if you have 8, it's going to make it 0. If you have 9, it's 0. It's rounded up to 0. Right? If you have 5, it's rounded up to 0. If you have 4, the same thing. So this is, again, rounded up is away from 0. And this one is towards what? 0. Now let's do something here. Let's go back to, let's refresh. Probably make this here. Let's look at this. Let's open the task 7 and let's see what we can do here. So how about we have this? Okay, for the round, we have round up. I'm going to change it. It's fine. And I have 1. It's going to give us 16.8, right? Now, if I have to 2, it will still give us 16.8. But if this was to be, let's say, 16.899 or 894, yes, right, 894, and I'll probably just make this 2 right there. Now 2, look at what happens. We have it as what? Now let's say we have it as, I want to add a number here. Let's say we have 4. Okay, so I'll probably just increase it to that, right? So, and I make it to 3. Now notice something, right? Now I make it to 3, numbers of digits to 3 decimal place. Look at what it gave me. Now it gave me what? 889 what? 5. So it's rounded up. This is going to be rounded up to what? To 1. It's going to round up. But for the round down, it's going to bring it to 0. While the round up brings it to 1, the round up brings it to what rounds it up towards 0. While the round down rounds it towards 0. the round up rounds it away from 0. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm not going to save, literally. I'm not going to save, so don't save. Okay, so hope we're having fun, right? Let's look at the next one. Count and count A. Now, when we talk about the count will just count numbers of cell that contains number only. That's what the count is doing. It's just counting the range that contains numbers only. But for count A, it is only counting the range that includes numbers, text, but ignores any cell that is blank. It's not going to count any cell that is blank. That's for count A. Okay, so this is very important. That's for count A. It's not going to count any cell that is blank, but it's going to count the range of any cell that includes number or text. Okay, so now let's do this. Task 8. They said place a formula in cell B12 to count the numbers of workers that still have jobs to be what? To be finished for the project. Place a formula in cell B13 to count numbers of workers on the project. So let's do this. So again, I'm going to open task 8. And I'm going to click on File, Save As, and I'll save as what? A workbook. And I'm going to click on Save. Now again, I'm going to click here to select everything, and I'm going to double click on this. Okay, and then let's do the formatting here. So this A1 to B1, and look at this. This was merged, right? We've talked about merged. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to come here to what? Merge. Probably merge and center because it's right here centered. And then the background, which is the fill color, was purple, and this is what? White. Okay, so I'm going to bold this. Okay, and I will increase it a bit. Okay, so I'm going to probably adjust this, right? So let's look at it. Are we done? Now look at this. This was wrapped. Can you see that? This was wrapped. So I'm going to click here, wrap the text, click here, wrap the text. That's what I did. So right here, I clicked on the wrap. So now I'm going to adjust it. All right, adjust it as well. So I'm going to increase this as well. All right, so I increase it like this, increase it like this, right? So I have this. Who have not finished? So I adjust it. Good. So now I have this. So here, this is what? Equals to count. Now I'm going to do count, not count A, count, and I'm going to highlight everything here. Now remember, it counts only numbers. So even if you're adding a text, it's only going to focus on what? The numbers, which is what? 7. Now what did you do? It counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Every other thing was ignored. But numbers of workers on the project simply means that we want to know those who are on the project. And people on the project is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 people are the project. Okay? The remaining ones are the ones that still have some projects, who still have some job. There are others who have 2 people are finished. Okay, Ethan and Oba, right, are finished. So to do this, I'm going to hit on equals to count A, and I'm going to highlight everything here, right? Close it, minus, because that's the only way we can be able to do that. We know it's 9. We can look at it that we can see it's 9, but we need to show proof with a formula that that is it. So you look at, we count A, A2 to B10, right? Minus count, right? Again, everything here, and I'll close it. And if I hit on enter, it's going to give me 9. Why? Because the count A, let me do this. Let me show you something. Let me cut this. Count 8 gave me 16. And if you count this, between 2 to 10 is about 9, right? It's supposed to be 18. But because of these two blank cells, it didn't count it. So we have 16. So now we know that, okay, with 16 minus 7, what do we have? 9. And that's why we have this. Okay, 9. Okay, so hope that makes sense. So I'm going to save this and I'll close it. COUNTIF and COUNTIFs. When we talk about COUNTIF, right, we're simply saying that, again, it will count the numbers of cells within a range that meets a single criterion, right? A single condition. So for example, we can say, okay, if beta is found in all of this, count how many beta is found in all of this. Count how many iPad or phones or iPhone 12 or 13 is found in all of this. Okay, so this is very important. So that's why we use the COUNTIF. It's to count, right, the numbers of cells given that word single word condition. And that's why we have this. So we have the formula as equals to COUNTIF, we have the range, and then we have what? The criteria. Okay, but for COUNTIFs, we're counting numbers of cells that meets one or more what? Criteria. That's meeting more than one what? Criteria. So again, for each criteria we have the range. For each criteria we have the range. That's why we have what? The criteria range 1, right? Criteria 1. We have criteria range 2, criteria 2. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so this is very important. Now let's look at this tax 9. So I'm going to open tax 9. Okay, so I'm going to open tax 9 and I'm going to click on file. I'm going to click on save as. I'm going to click on Excel workbook. So I'm going to save this. Good. So now let's do a little bit of formatting here. So this is what? A1 to C1. So I'm going to merge. But before I do that, now look at this. These are not falling into their appropriate columns. So I'm going to click here to select the columns and row. Double click on this. Okay. So I'm going to highlight this. Okay. And I'm going to merge this. So merge and center probably. Okay. Merge and center. And then I have this to be the background, which is the field, to be purple. I have this to be the text, which is white. I'm going to make it bold and I'm going to increase this. Okay. So now again, look at this. This is bold, 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 bold. Now to do this, I'm going to click on the first one, hold my control, click this, click this, click this, click this, right? Now the reason why I'm doing that is instead of bolding them individually, I can just highlight, select them, right? And then I can just bold them at once. Okay, so that is done. All right. So now they said what? Let's look at this together. Let's look at this together. Right. They said the list shows some workers on another project and list each worker's job. Place formula in cell F4 to F8 to count. F4 to F8 is what? F4, right, to F8 to count how many of each type of workers are employed on the project. So let's do that. So that's the COUNTIF. So I have equals to COUNTIF. So what's the range? Now, these are numbers of staff. So I'm going to count the jobs here. So again, I would highlight this. Okay. And then, comma, what's the criteria? Now, because this is relative, I'm going to select this instead of typing director, and I'm going to what? Close this. And I'm going to hit on enter. So I have just one director. And if we look at it closely, carefully, we'll see that Golibe has what? A director. Okay. So now place a formula in cell F11 to count. Okay, now this is another one. Now again, we need to replicate. But if I replicate this, I just replicate this, it's not going to give me the appropriate result Why? Because the range is not absolute. The range is changing, and your range should not change. Literally, in situations like this, when you're replicating, your range should not change. So what do we do? So I'm going to highlight this, and Fn plus F4, or put a dollar sign in the column and row, will make it absolute, will make it constant. Why? So that when we are replicating, that range is remaining constant, and what is changing is just the cell reference. So now if we replicate this, see what happens. It is better now. Why? Because the criteria is going through the same range and counting. Now for this, the other part, which is what? Place the formula in cell F11 to count the numbers of employees with less than 5 years. Place the formula in cell F12 to count the numbers of employees with 10 or more years experience. To do that, I have this. Less than 5, right? Years of experience is equals to COUNTIF, okay? And I have the range. So I'm going to highlight this, okay? Comma. Now, the criteria here is not going to be the same thing, because less than 5, we need to do this. We need to represent what less than 5 means. So I'm going to put that in a double speech mark, right? When you're having to do something like this, you don't just put directly. You have to put, the reason why we're putting in a speech mark is because we have a number and a special symbol. So for Excel to be able to see it as 1, we have to use a double speech mark. So I have less than symbol and then 5. And I'll put the other speech marks here, right? And then when I close this and I hit on enter, it's going to count the numbers that are less than what? 5, right? Now I cannot replicate because these are not the same, because I have to use another kind of symbol. But if I'm really to replicate, I'll just probably just have to change it here. But again, since it's not the same, I'll probably just have to use something else. Okay, let me just reduce this a bit. Okay. Okay, so I have this, right? Give me a minute. So right here, more than or equals to what? 10. So I want you to see how you can try this. I've taught you this. Pause this video and try more than or equals to 10. Let me see. And if you're done, put a play and then see how I did it. Okay, so here I'm going to do what? Equals to COUNTIF. Okay, now the range is going to be this, right? Comma. Now the criteria is going to be double speech marks, right? More than or equals to 10 means greater than equals to what? 10. And I'm going to add the speech marks here, and I'm going to what? Close it. So if I hit on what? Enter, right? This is what it's going to give to me. This is the values I'm going to have. So this is very important. Okay, so I'm going to look at the next one called the if function. If function. When we talk about the if function, what do we mean? You see the word if, right? So it simply means that it returns one value if a condition is true and returns another if it's false. So we use it for decision making, right? So for example, that logical test talks about performing that calculation. So if that calculation here is true, it should give you the value. But if that calculation you are performing is not true, then it should return what? A false value. And that's why we see that it has a pair of brackets, okay? And within the brackets are separated by what? Commas. And it have 3 parts. The logical test where you can perform the calculations, the true value, and then the false value. Value if true, value if false. Okay? So now we have an example here. Now the example here says that if A1 is equals to 5, right? And that simply means that give a discount of 5%. But if A1 is not equals to 5, then there's no discount. Okay, so what shows there is no discount. I hope this is very clear. So again, this is very important. Now let's look at this tax 10. They said Let's open tax 10. Refresh. Let's open tax 10. Okay, I think I can close this other one, tax 9. I'll save it, it's fine. So I'm going to click on the top right, the top left to select my columns and row, take my cursor between A and B, double click on it. Okay, so what do I do here? I'm going to merge A1 to what? D1. So I'm going to merge A1 to, is it D1? Just want to be sure. Yes, D1, yes. So A1 to D1. So I'm going to merge and center. And I'm going to make this purple and I'll make it white. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this and I will make it bold. Okay, so I think that's fine. They said, let's look at it. Add a new label called category. So I'm probably going to highlight this category into cell D2. So cell D2 here, I'll just double click and you just add anyone really. Just right click and just paste the first one. It's still fine. So I'll probably bold this as well. Looking at the pattern, adjust this a bit. All right. So now they said, place formula in cell D3 to D21. Look at it. D3 to D21. Okay, so what are we doing here? Now, they said to display very experience for employees with 10 or more years. See that? To display what? Very experience for employees with 10 or more years. Okay, so to do that, otherwise, to display what? Not experience. Okay, otherwise to display what? Not experience. Now what I'm going to do here is this, right? So I have equals to if. So if the logical test, I'm going to use the first one. So if this right here, you always use the first one to test. So if this is what they said with 10 or more years, okay. So if this is greater than equals to 10, right? So if this year of experience here is greater or equals to 10, then what do you display by all means? Use the speech marks for both words. Very, okay. You type it exactly the way it is, please. Very experience. But if this C3 here, right, which is 3, is not greater than or equals to 10, then please display what? Not experience. Not experience. And I'm going to hit enter. So what's it going to give me at the end of the day? Not experience. So now because I've done this, now there's no need for us to do any absolute here because already this is an if condition. So we need this to what? To perform if logical test. So I'm going to what? Double click this so that it's going to replicate automatically. So I'll just double click on this. So now if you look at this, you see that 12 is what? Very experienced. Why? Because if you look at the formula, C5 is indeed greater than or equals to what? 10. It's 5 is greater than 10. While the one that has 10 is greater or equals to what? 10, which is what? Experience. So greater or equals to 10, greater or 10 or more, or greater or equals to 10 means 10 and what? Above. Okay? So I'm going to, don't forget, save it as an Excel workbook. Right? I can see the CXV here. File, save as, and change it to an Excel workbook. I click on what? Save. So now we can save this and then we can close. Okay, so we can close this. Now the next one is use nested function. When we talk about nested function, right, it simply means having one function inside another one. That's what it means. Having one function inside another one. Sometimes the nested function can contain several functions within each other. Okay, so if the nested function includes a number of if statements, you have to be careful you have to be very careful because it works in a logical order. That simply means that it works from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. It does not work in between. Please take note. It works from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Okay? So we do not start with middle values. It will give you incorrect result. So again, nested function is in both ways. We can have when we have multiple ifs, or we have if and other what functions. Okay, so tax 11. I'm going to open tax 11 right now, right? So I'm going to open tax 11, and I'm going to save as an Excel workbook. That's the first thing I'll do. Click on File, click on Save as an Excel workbook. So I'm going to save this, right? So I'm going to click here, select my columns and row, and I'll. This is what we do in the masterclass, really. We try as much as possible to ensure that we're able to properly, right, teach learners how they can properly understand, interpret the question as much as possible. We dive deeper than just a past paper to ensure that at the end of the day, they're able to fully understand any question that is being administered to them. So I highlighted on this and then I made it what? Black. Okay. So now let's look at this. They said what? Change the formula in cell D3 to D1 to display not experience if they have less than 5 years experience, experience if they have 5 or more years experience, very experienced with 10 or more experience. So again, it works with what? The smallest to the largest or largest to the smallest. So again, I can use this in my logical order, or I use this, but I don't use the middle one. So please take note. So I'm going to probably start with very experienced, 10 or more. So again, I have this. So equals to if. So if this is what? Greater, equals to 10, comma, what am I doing? Very what? Experience, comma, right? If, another if is nested, if this again, right, which is C3, is what? Now I can now use what? The middle one, right? So again, if they are what? If they have 5 or more years, so equals to what? Greater than or equals to 5. What do I have? Experience. Or I have what? The first value is going to be what? Not experience. And I'll close this. Now again, be careful. This is going to close this, and then this right here is going to close this. I'm going to hit on enter. Now see what I have here. So I'm going to double click on this. Now there's another way to do this. You can actually do it with not experience, and then you do with experience, and the follower will be very experienced, right? Now, when you have your nested if there are two conditions, now look at this. They said if condition 1 is true, give a true value. And then we have a second condition. If condition 2 is true, give the true value. We have another condition. If condition 3 is true, give the true value. You only have one false. So for every 3 condition, there's one false, right? If you have 4 conditions, there's one false. So if you have 5 values, 4 is true, 1 is false. If you have 3, 2 is true, 2 is true, 1 is false. So this is very important. Okay? All right. So if I duplicate on this, I will have this at the end of the day. Okay? So you see that 12 is very experienced, 10 is very experienced, 14 is what? Very experienced. 6, 9 is experienced, right? And 210 point is not experienced. So I'm going to save this and I will close this. The sum if and average if. When we talk about the sum if, they work in the same way as the COUNTIF. Now, what it does is it compares each value in a range of cell, and if the value matches the given condition. So it's the first thing it's going to do is to find the range, right? And to see if that criteria that given condition is part of that range, is now going to return or add the values in another related what cell. That value, remember, is returning what? A value. So if you're counting bags, school bags, right, from the list of items, which is your range, it's now going to add the total amount of school bags that have been sold, because the sum is returning what? Sum is returning what? Values. Don't forget. But instead of doing it manually, we can now use a criteria, which is what the sum range, the sum if comes in handy. For the average if is doing the same thing. Again, for the average if, is going to calculate the average number from that range and then returns what? That value for you. That's why you have the sum if to be the range, the criteria, and then the sum range. The only difference between the sum and average, the average if, the sum if and average if, is that here you have the average range and here you have the sum range. Okay, so let's look at task 12 to reinforce our understanding. So I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to open task 12. Okay, so I'm going to save as an Excel workbook. Save as Excel workbook. Now I'm going to click here, double click here. What do I have here? Let's look at the project. So this is A1 to D1. A1 to D1. I'm going to what? Merge and center. I'm going to make this purple, and I'll make this what? White. I will increase it, make it bold. I'm going to highlight this, right? Hold my control, select this, so I can make them what? Bold, which is what here, right? I think everything is clear. Probably just do this a bit. And also adjust this. Okay, so let's look at it. Let's look at it. It said task 12. Insert the label total experience 4. So I'll copy this. Where is in cell E15? Look at it, E15, and I have my name box to tell me. So I'm going to paste this total experience 4, and I'll make it black. And the label programmer in E16. So E16 is here. So I'll type programmer, and then also engineer in E17. Look at it right here. Engineer in E17. Insert a formula in F16. Where's F16? F16 is here. F16, I have my name box here. F16 that uses both absolute and relative what? Referencing to calculate the numbers of years experience for the programmer. And we're going to do the same thing for engineer. So to do that, this is equals to what? Sum. Okay. What are we doing? They said we are to calculate numbers of years. So sum if, what's the range for programmers? The job here, comma, this is going to be what? My criteria, comma, the sum range is values. So I want to know the years of experience here. So I highlight this, okay, and I'll close it. Now hit my enter. It's going to give me this. If I replicate, it will probably give me an error because this, your range must be an absolute. What changes is your criteria. Please take note. Your range is your absolute. What changes is what? Your criteria. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to do Fn plus F4. I'm going to do the same thing here, right? The range here, Fn, F4, hit on enter, and I'm going to what? Replicate down. So now we have it. So you can see that what is changing here is what? The criteria from E16 to E17, right? So I can save this and I will close it. All right. Use lookups. Okay. We'll talk about lookup. We have 3 types of lookup. The lookup itself, HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and even SLOOKUP. So we have 4. Now, when we talk about lookup, lookup simply means you're fetching, right? You're searching for a particular what? Value, right? So this is very important. Okay. So when we talk about the lookup, let's talk about lookup itself. Let's start with lookup, right? Lookup simply means that you're looking for a value, right? Using that data in the first row or the first column. Because again, lookup can perform both the HLOOKUP or the VLOOKUP. And then you're returning a relatively what? Value. Now, the first thing you need to note with the lookups is that you must have a lookup value. What is that thing you want to search for? And once you have what you want to search for, you need to search it from that range. And for lookup, we call it what we call it a lookup vector, because you're searching it from what? That particular what? Range. And once it's found, it's going to return a corresponding value to you, and that becomes what? A result what? Vector. Make sense? A result vector. Okay, so this is very important. Now, for the HLOOKUP, the HLOOKUP performs a horizontal. I want you to see this. It performs what? A horizontal what? Lookup of data. That's what it's doing. So again, it's comparing, right? From the lookup values that you have, and now you now have what we call a table array. The table array simply means that it is going to go through the table. It's going to fetch through the table to find that corresponding row that has the value that you want, that corresponding value, and then you need what we call a range lookup. If it's going to be exact, if it's going to be approximate. Now, when we talk about an array is a list of items. That's what it is, a list of items. So from that range, from that table array, you are highlighting all through the table, and it's going to find through the rows where that particular, what you're searching for is found, and return its corresponding what? Values or labels. Okay, so that's what we have: the lookup value, we have the table array, which is the whole table, exceptional of the headings, right? We have the row index number. Which row is it found? Remember, when we are doing the HLOOKUP, the lookup values are found in the first row. For your VLOOKUP, it is found in the first column. They don't allow backward referencing, only forward. It goes from the left to the right, not the other way. And then your range lookup, which is going to be what? Is it an exact, which is false or 0, or is it an approximate, which is what? True or 1? So this is very important. Okay, so let's do this. Tax 13. Let's do tax 13. Okay, so I'm going to open tax 13. Fetch this, tax 13. Now I will save this as an Excel workbook. Save as Excel workbook, and I'll save. Now again, I'm going to highlight. Let's look at it. This is what? A1 to H1. So I'm going to do that. A1. Before I do that, again, I'll click here to select the columns. I will double click. Okay, to ensure everything is showing. A1 to H1. I'll probably do a merge and center because that's what it is. Right? Make it a purple. Your fill color, the background is purple, and your text is what? White. I'll make it bold, and I'll increase the font size. This is bold. What else again? And then the name, job code, and description is also bold. So we have this. Now, for us to do this, remember, your headings are in the row for HLOOKUP, for the horizontal lookup, is what? In the row section, right? So I have equals to HLOOKUP. And I've done a video on this, on HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and I'll probably just put it in the description or somewhere. You can find it in the YouTube channel somewhere on HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, when I did a video with a worksheet on it to make it easy for you. So equals to HLOOKUP. Lookup value is, I use the first one to test, this right here, comma. My table array is going to be everything here, right? Comma. The row index. Remember, the lookup value is found in the first row, so you can use it. So the corresponding one is what? In the second row, right? 1, 2. Because it's index number, the number is what? 2. So I'm going to use this, 2. Formula bar, comma. What's the lookup range? It's going to be an exact what? Match. So which is false or 0. So I'm going to close it, and I'm hit on enter. Now, because the lookup is in the same worksheet, you have to make this an absolute reference. If not, it will give you wrong values. So that simply means Fn plus F4, and if I hit on enter and I replicate, it will give me what? The right one. Okay, with Tariq Clerical and Toby Loba, director. Okay, so I have this. So I'm going to save this. Okay, so hope that makes sense. So I'm going to close this, save and close. Now the next one is the VLOOKUP. The VLOOKUP performs a vertical lookup of data. That is what it does. It performs a vertical what? Lookup of data. Again, it's used to compare data that are stored in a single column. The HLOOKUP performs compares data that are stored in what? In a single row. This performs data that's stored in what? In a single what? Column. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, again, it can look up data that is stored in the same file like we saw in the HLOOKUP. It can also look up data that are stored in a different file or a different workbook. It's still the same thing as the HLOOKUP. With your lookup values, the table array, which is everything in the table, right? The difference there is instead of the row index number, you now have the column index number. And then your range lookup, which is it going to be approximate, which is true or 1, or is it going to be exact, which is false or 0? Right, so this is very important. Now again, your headers are in the column wise. Okay, and it goes from left to right. Again, your lookup values is stored in what? In the first column. Okay, so now let's do tax 14. So tax 14 is 2 files, so I'm going to open the 2 files. Okay, and I'll open the second one. Okay, I'm going to save, this is the main work, so I'll save this one as an Excel workbook. So file, save as, Excel workbook, save, and I'll click here, my top left, to select the columns and row, and then double click. I'll come here again to the one I want to look up, ensuring that nothing is cutting off and everything falls in the appropriate column. So I'm going to click on the top left, and in between A and B, I'll double click on it. So I have this. So now let's go back to the file. Do we have any formatting to do? Yes, A1 to C1. A1 to C1. I'm going to merge and center. Sometimes you have to merge, put in the right? Not every time merge and center. So I'm going to make this purple. The background is purple, and this is white. I'm going to bold this. This is what we do in the masterclass, really. We try as much as possible to ensure that we're able to properly, teach learners how they can properly understand, interpret the question as much as possible. We dive deeper than just a past paper to ensure that at the end of the day, they're able to fully understand any question that is being administered to them. Increase the font size. And what else again? So this is bold. I'm going to bold it. Okay. So what do we do here? They said, insert formula in current tax column to look up the client using the tax code for the lookup value and the file year10 client for the array. They would give you this in the question. Okay. So make sure you use both absolute and relative referencing. When we are fetching and we are looking up from another file, from a different file, it will be an automatic absolute. Okay, so let's do that. So I have equals to VLOOKUP. Okay, my lookup value is going to be, I'm using the first one, this tax code, comma, my table array is going to be everything on the table. So I'm going to highlight the first one, and I will exclude the heading, comma, the column index. What are we returning? Remember that the first column is what? For your lookup value. So this is what we are returning. The second one, which is what? In number is 2, which is being in numeric is what? 2, and comma, this is going to be what? An exact match. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Again, they're all separated with comma. Now you're going to have something like this. This is the name of the file. Okay, with what? The range. You can see that this is what is in absolute. So if I hit on enter and I go back to this, you see that it is here. So now I can just double click on this to select to replicate the formula across all of them. So now I can save this. I can save this. I can close this. I can close this. I probably don't need to save. I don't need to save this. Now, when we talk about the XLOOKUP, what do we mean? When we talk about the XLOOKUP, this is an extended lookup. So it can perform either the horizontal or the vertical. That is what it can do. And it is available for newer versions of Excel, of Excel. 2021, the 365, you will definitely get it. 2021 and above. Okay? So again, it's similar to HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, but it's powerful and flexible because it can do both. And in the XLOOKUP, it allows backward referencing. The VLOOKUP does not allow it. It doesn't allow it. But the XLOOKUP allows backward referencing, right? So it can be able to retrieve data in either ways. Now, they all have a lookup value. But a lookup value can now be in a different row or in a different column, right? And once you have lookup value, it is similar to the lookup. When you have lookup value and then you have your lookup vector. Now you have your lookup array. What you want to search for, right, is going to have the list of items of what you want to search for. That array means the list of items. And then once you have found it, what are you now returning? In the lookup, you have result vector. Here you have what? Return array. So you are going to return it. But in the lookup, it stops there. The XLOOKUP goes a little bit further to say, okay, if what I'm searching for is not found, give me this error message. Instead of the default NA, we can now customize it to give us something different. We can now give our own error messages. Okay, or better still, if there's nothing displayed, it should be what? Empty. So that means double speech marks to represent what? Empty. And that's not all. We move forward to what? The match mode. So is it going to be an exact match, which is 0 at default, or is it going to be -1, which is exact match, or find the smaller item, or 1 to be an exact match, or find the larger what? Item. Okay, so this is very important. We also have the search mode to search for 1 is that default. Is it going to search from the first to last, or -1? Is it going to search from the last to first, or is it going to be in a binary search in ascending order, or binary search in -2 in descending order? Okay, so now let's look at the stacks here to reinforce our understanding on this concept. Let's look at it. Okay, so here we have tax 15. So let me open the tax. I'm going to open both of the files. Okay, refresh this. Tax 15, I'm going to open both of them. Now open the other one. Okay, so again, this is the main work. So I'll save, click on File, save as Excel workbook. Okay, now let's do a little bit of formatting. So we have A1 to C1. Again, don't forget, I'll click this, select the columns and row. So I'll double click A1 to C1. So I'll do merge and center, make this purple, make this white, increase it. Then bold, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bold this. Okay, so probably give a space here. Okay, so we have this, right? For the client, double click. So this was also bold. I'll probably just leave it like that. You can hold that, right? So I'll just save it. Okay. Now the next one is they said insert a formula in the current tab to look up the client using the task code for a lookup value and the file for what? The external array. Make sure that you use both absolute and relative referencing within your function. So now to do this, I'm going to bring down this here, okay, and also bring down this here as well, right? So we can see the formulas. All right, so I have this. So right here, equals to XLOOKUP, right? Equals to XLOOKUP. Lookup value is going to be the first one, comma, the lookup array. Now, because this allows backward reference, you can see that normally in VLOOKUP, this should be the first column. But in XLOOKUP, it's flexible. So I'm going to highlight the first one, right? Comma. Now look at the formula template. The formula template is very important. It guides you. What's the return array? What do you want to return? I want to return this, comma. Now, if it's not found, give me empty. So we use the double speech marks for it, comma. Then the match mode is going to be what? Exact match. So I'm going to close this and I'll hit on what? Enter. Now, I'm going to replicate this. Now, watch what happens. If I make this to be 10, it's going to give me empty. Why? Because I don't recognize it. So instead of giving me a default error, I trap the error to say, okay, no, do this for me. Give me this kind of error, which is what? Empty. Okay? So this is very important. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to close this. All right? So that's very important. I'll probably just use that one. Let me open it back. I'm not sure. I think that one we'll probably use. So how do we manipulate? How do we manipulate? Okay, so we're done with the hard stuff, right? So this part is all about manipulate. How do we manipulate? So we can manipulate by searching and selecting. Now we can search using text field, and we can search using using text filters and or number filters. Text filters is for text, number filter is for numbers. So here I want to do this. So again, I want to do this for Africom. So what I can do is I'm going to create a filter. So I'm going to highlight, okay, come here to the filter, create a filter for it, right? I can double click on this because I want it to be shown. I'm going to bring this back, right? And here I'll click on the filter and then click here to uncheck this and then check this and then click on what? Okay. So that's one way to do it. So if I come here, I can clear my filter. Now we have other ones on the text. So for example, I can do for text like I want to do a text filter for okay, let me just follow the slide. I think we have other ones for 2 or more criteria. Okay, so we have for number filters. So number filter, we want to have between 3 and 4 for the tax code. Okay, so I'll come into the tax code, number filters, customize filter. Again, click on tax code, number filter, customize filter. Right here, 3 to 5, right? So greater than or equals to 5, and less than equals to. So greater than equals to 3, less than equals to 5, and if I hit on enter, we would have this. So it's and two conditions. So one is greater than equals to that's 3 and less than equals to 5. Another way to do that, I can say more than 2, greater than 2, and then less than 6. That's one way to do that. So there's so many ways to do it. Now the other one is when we want to display only, or we don't want to include 2 things. So if we don't want to include 2 things, this is what we do. So I'll come here, clear the filter, and then right here on this text filter, come here to text filter, customize filter, and I will come here to what? Do not include. Does not equals to what? I'll probably look for Tariq, and because it's both of them, does not equal. Does not equal. I have Biobalem. So Biobalem is here. So if I click on now, it's all, right? Does not. Okay, sorry. This for does not equal. So it's and because it's 2 conditions and. So I'll click on OK, and you see that we have them removed. Now let's do undo. You see that Tariq and Biobelem is 9 and 11. If I do redo, you see that they are not there anymore. Okay, so this is important. Now, how about we want to display two things? So I'm going to clear the filter, come here to correct tags, and under the text filters, I will come here to what? Customize filter. Okay, customize filters, and I will come here to what? Equals to what? I want hothouse, or equals to what? I want what? Maybe binner account, and I will click on OK, and I have this. So this is very important. Okay, all right, so I can probably clear this as well. Okay, so I'll clear this, and I have this. Now, how do we search using a wildcard? If we want to search using a wildcard, this is what we do. Now let's come to our names. So text filters, customize filter. Now under here, you see that for our wildcards, we have begin with, end with, and then contains. So let's do begin with, right? And something we've done in database. So begin with I. What does it give us? It gives us Iyanu, right? Oluwa, right? So it gives us this. Now, if I clear the filter, and let's do another one again, text filter, customize filter, end with. Let's do end with. So end with will give us, it's ending with N. Okay, if I click on OK, I have three people, Iyanoluwa, Kikike, and Tobiloba, right? So if I clear the filter and I do contain, text filters, customize filter, come here to what? Contain what? Let's say O. So it can be anywhere, right? And I think everything is O, really. Okay, so I think just a few that's not there. Okay. So this shows that this has been filtered. So this is very important. Again, I can come here to clear this, and I will do another one called the wildcard. So here we have should begin with, right? Anything, and then O. Begin with, and that question mark means it can have any letter from A to Z, but the next one must be an O. So if I click on OK, I'm having this. So each of them had this, but the next O was Sochi and Tobiloba, right? So I'm going to probably just save this. So how do we sort? Now I'll close this. How do we sort? When we are sorting our data, okay, when we are sorting our data, okay, we're sorting them in ascending or descending order, and you have to select all of them to be able to sort. Now look at this right here. You see that when we're sorting, right, this is the original data. Now this was not sorted properly because only the name was sorted, but the subject was not highlighted, so we had an incorrect data. But here we had to sort everything, and what we had to sort everything, and it still gave, this is the original data. Now this was only sorted correctly with, or this was sorted correctly. So this was sorted correctly because E10 is 95 and 100. So this was sorted correctly, but this was only sorted with only the name, and then we have the wrong data, right? So this is important. So when we are sorting, we are arranging the data in ascending or descending order. Okay, so this is very important. It's a long video, but again, totally worth it because you can just skip to any part you're having issues with, and that will get it sorted for you. So now we have tax 16. So I'm going to open tax 16. I'm going to open tax 16, and I'm going to save as an Excel workbook. Save as Excel workbook. Okay, so again, click here to select my columns and row. Double click on it, and the first one is going to be bolded. So now we have it. So to sort this, look at the question. It said sort the data into ascending order of surname, then ascending order of forename. So surname first, then forename. So I'm going to highlight everything. When you highlight everything, automatically it's going to be checked that the data has what? Header. So if I come here to the sort and filter, custom sort, you will see that my data has header. So if my data has header, it's going to exclude it for you during the sorting. And then in your sort by, it's going to change from column A, B, C, D to the column title for you. So I'm sorting by what? Surname, and it's going to be ascending order. I'm going to add another level. And if I add another level here, I'm going to sort by what? Forename. And when I'm sorting by forename, it's going to give me an ascending what? Order, and I have this sorted. Now, if I don't want to include the headers, right? Let me undo it. I can come here to say, okay, I will highlight this without the headers, and I will go to what? My sort, custom sort, and now I'm going to uncheck this. I will uncheck this, that it doesn't have a header, and I will sort by what? B, A to Z, add a level here, sort by what? A. If I click on OK, you see that it has this. So this is important. All right. So I'm going to save this and I'll close this. How do we present our data? Now, when we are presenting our data, remember I talked about this, how we can adjust the width of the column and row of the height. Okay. Now, another way for us to adjust it is if we go to format. Okay, let me refresh. Use this as an example. If we go to format, let me highlight this, and we go to format, we can now set the width of the column width to, let's say we have it to 10. See, it has extended. The same thing with the row here. We can go to format and we'll do what? The row height. And if we make it 25 or 26, you see the difference. Okay, so this is important. So let's see how we can do this. Now we are now in formatting, tag 17. Okay, so I'm going to click on file, click on save as, click as an Excel workbook. Okay, so I'm going to save. Now, looking at this, this is formatting. This is very important. This is something you're going to see. They'll tell you to format it to look like this. So it's important for you to have an eye for enhancing what? Your spreadsheet. Okay, they said merge cell A1 to C1 and set the text height of this cell to 36 points. Now to do this, A1 to C1, I'll highlight, I'll probably merge and center. Okay, that's the first thing. And we're to make it 36 points. So I'm going to make this what? 36 points. Done. The next one is merge A3 to C3. A3 to C3. Now I want to ensure everything is properly shown here. So I'm going to click here, right? And then double click here so that everything is shown. Now, because I've merged, it's probably going to look a long list for me. So I need to reduce this column A. So I'm going to reduce the column A a bit so that I'll do it again, column A and B, and then highlight this. A3 to what? C3. Come here to what? Merge. Look at it. I think it's merge and center. Yes, merge and center. Okay, and then wrap text. So let's do it again. I'll click and select all, double click on it. So now it's probably adjusted. Okay, so what else? They said set the other text to 14 point high. So from here, it's going to be 14 points. All right, what else? So now the next thing is up to us to adjust. So I'm going to come here. I'll start adjusting, start adjusting, start adjusting, start adjusting, start adjusting. So I'm going to adjust this here, adjust this here. So I'm going to make this purple. I'm going to make this white. And right here again, since it's wrap text, I'm going to increase the height for this. Okay, so I'll do this. So I have this. So I have what? The colors available. And then There's a border here. So I'm going to add the border here. So come here, all borders, but this border is too faint. So I'll highlight it again, go to line styles, choose this one, go back to all borders and then make it this. Again, I'll make this all borders. I'll probably add my name here. Okay, so what else? I'll probably reduce this a bit. Yes, and then increase this one. Okay. Okay. All right. Now look at this. You see the two? I want you to see this. Look at this. 2 and 4 were reduced. The heights were reduced. So I'm going to highlight this, hold my control, highlight this, and I'm going to reduce this to 14. Okay, 14. So that's fine. And then right here, I'm going to highlight this and bold it. Also bold this as well. Now let's look at the font style. What font style is this? This is it serif, sans serif, or Calibri? Pause the video and tell me, and then play. So the answer is Calibri. Okay, so I'm going to highlight everything to be what? Calibri. Calibri. Okay, Calibri, and I have this. So I'm going to do my adjusting again. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this, right click, go to format cell, right, or you can actually come here again under the numbers, go to what? Fill. Pattern color is this, and the pattern style is this, the thin horizontal cross hash. White for this is this one here. Okay, this one here, right? Accent, and I'll click on OK. So we have this. Okay, so again, I'm going to save as an Excel workbook. Save and then close. All right. So again, what have we learned? Background color, font color, bold, italics, which is sloppy, underline, pattern fill, text orientation. Now to get your text orientation, this is what you do. Right, I'll come here under the text orientation. I have it here, right? So I can change this to this, change this to this, click on it just to bring it back, right? Okay. Format numeric data. How do we format numeric data? So you have something like this, tax 18. So I'm going to open tax 18, right? Save it as an Excel workbook. Save as Excel workbook. Okay. So now you have this. They said, place the formula in cell C2 that multiply the content of cell A2 by the content of CB2. Okay. Format A2 as an integer. Okay. As what? An integer. So A2 as an integer. So I'm going to format it as an integer. So that simply means that I'm making it what? Decrease what? Font size. I'm decreasing here. And I'm coming here to the product. So that's equals to what? A2 multiply B2. So I'm going to hit an enter. So it's going to give me 6. So I'm going to save and then I'm going to close. Tax 19. Again, click on File, Save as, Excel Workbook, and I'll save. And don't forget, I'll click here, select my columns and row, double click on this to give me this. All right. Now let's look at this. Let's look at this. They said, format cell A1, D1, D3, and G3 so that the font is bold and 14 point. Now to do this, I'm going to hold my control A1, D1, A1, hold my control, D1, D3, G3. And then I'm going to increase the font size to what? 14. And bold. Okay. Now I'm going to have to select all and then double click on it so that everything is showing. here. Okay. Now they said what? Format all numeric cell in row 2 into their respective currency. Now, currency not accounting. Okay, so when I'm going to format, I'm going to currency and to their respective currency to 3 decimal places in row 2. So let's do that. So here is euro. Okay, I'm going to go to the number format here, right? Currency. I'm going to right on the symbol. I'm going to scroll to euro. Okay, euro is after right here, this euro, and 3 decimal places. So I'm going to click on OK. I'll do the same thing for Japan. So I'm going to click here, go to number format, currency, right? Change it to Japanese. Right here, decimal places is 3. Click on OK. Right? Now what else? They said format all numeric cell in column C and D into pound sterling with 2 decimal places. So I'm going to highlight column C and D together since it's having the same currency and number of decimal places. Number format, currency. I'm going to make it the United Kingdom. Okay, right here. So I have this British. Okay, right, and then 2 decimal places. Done. What else? They said format cell E5 to E15 into euros with 2 decimal places. Now we have this. So let's look at it. E15, E5 to E15. So I'm going to highlight this, okay, and it's euro. So I'll go to my number format, go to currency, switch to what? Euro. So E for euro. So I'm going to click on my euro here, 2 decimal places, and I'll click on what? Okay. Now the next one is what? Format the cell F5 to F15 into Japanese yen with 0 decimal place. This is with 0 decimal place. So I'm going to highlight this. Number format, currency, Japanese yen, no, Japanese. This is going to be 0 decimal place. All right. Now the next one is what? They said format all cell between G5 and G15 into percentage value with no decimal place. So I'm going to highlight this. Let's look at it. What? G5 to G50. I highlight this. Click on what? Percentage. So I'm going to save this. Okay. So this is saved. This is done. Final one is what we call the conditional what? Formatting. When we talk about conditional formatting, we are simply saying that it is used to change the display format. Okay, so we are giving the font color or the background color, which you call your field color. So we're simply saying that we're giving a color. Okay, we're giving a color to that particular cell. Okay, to that particular cell based on a given condition. So when we talk about the conditional formatting, we're saying that it is used to change the display format. And we're changing the format of that cell either with the font color or the background color, depending on that given what, if it means what, that given what condition. And we create rules for it to say if this is satisfied, this rule should be applied. Let's look at tax 20. Tax 20. Tax 20. Click on File, click on Save As, Excel Workbook. Don't forget, save. Click on the top left, double click on this. Now let's look at it. They say what? Let me increase this. They said A1 to D1. So I'm going to highlight this A1 to D1, merge and center. This is going to be what? Purple. This is going to be white. Increase the font size. Is it bolded? Let me see. I think it's bolded. Okay, yeah. So again, name here. Okay, so I'm going to bold this. Now let's look at, they said format the cell in column D so that if they contain the text not experienced, they are colored with a red background. So let's do that. Not experienced. I'll copy this. Now I'm going to highlight this for it to work. I'll highlight this. Under my conditional formatting, I'll click on what? New rules. New rule. Come here to only format cells that contains. I will choose the specific text and I'll say what? This. Not experienced. I'll click on format. Under my field, I'll click on what? Red. So if I click on OK, it is being applied. The next one is, I'll do the third one before I do the second one. If they contain very experience, I'll copy this, add a grid background. So again, while they are being highlighted, come to conditional formatting, new rule, only format cells that contains specific text containing very experience, format field, and it's going to be green. So I'll click on OK, OK. Now, when it comes to experience, we cannot use contain because contain simply means that it should have experience. It should contain this. If it's in other words, it should also contain, as long as it has very experience or not experience, in other words, it should be this. But when it comes to experience, because both of them have what? Both of them have what? They contain. Both of them have what? The experience. We can't use that. So we'll go to conditional formatting, new, only format cells that contain specific text, and we use what? Beginning with. Right? So beginning with what? Experience. So if I click on format, I'll choose the orange here and I'll click on what? OK. So if I click on OK, this is what we have. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay. So hope that is clear. So we're applying the four foreground color to this text. Okay, apply appropriate foreground color to the text. What about appropriate foreground color is this. Appropriate foreground color simply means that the text that are not clear, we need to add the appropriate foreground color, which is your text color. To do this, I'll go to conditional formatting, manage rules, click on the red, click on edit rule. Now go to format. Under my font, right, choose white because that's better with red. If I click on OK, click on OK, click on apply. Okay, so this is going to work. Okay, I think other ones are clear. All right, so this is important. If you want to take a screenshot of this, conditional formatting, manage rules. If I click on this, click on edit, I can now take my screenshot. Okay. So I will save this and I will close. Now, what have we learned so far as we close this? Again, how to adjust page orientation. How do you adjust a page orientation? Now, I'll probably just open this. Save, just open the tax 20. Now, we have the portrait on and what? Landscape orientation. So how we can do this is that we can go to, when we are printing our formulas, by clicking on File, Print, we can also adjust the orientation what? Here. All right. Another one is displaying grid lines for printing. To display grid line for printing, we'll go to Data. Okay. So a page layout. Now, this is the grid line. This is for print. This is for view. I can uncheck it. Right? But if I want to print and I need a grid line, if I check this, if I go to File, and print, it will show here. Okay, if I check this, if I want a heading, this is for view, the headings will be off. It's just to guide me. For printing, if I check on this, click on file, click on print, it would give me this as well. So I'm going to check this. I will check it. Okay. So display rows and column heading, we've talked about it. Now, how do we prepare to print? So let me explain this real quick. Let me use this to explain. Now, the printer you're going to select is Microsoft Print to PDF. Okay, so this is very important. Now, when you talk about print active sheet, it's going to print everything on the sheet. But if you do this, print selection is only going to print only what you have highlighted. So this is very important. Okay, now your orientation is portrait and landscape. Don't forget, I'm already on file, print. I can change this to what? Landscape. So this is important. I'm just going to practice. Okay, your paper size must be A4. This is very important for your printing. Now, if you want to adjust your formulas, you adjust them in the scaling where you have adjust to. By the time you reduce the percentage of the normal size, the numbers of pages would reduce. Right? The numbers of pages would reduce. This is very important. Because also your paper size here. Okay? So this is important. Now, when printing your spreadsheet, make sure that you have adjusted all column width and row height to ensure your printout show all labels in full, formula in full, data in full. When you're printing your spreadsheet, you have to make sure that you are, and that's what we have been doing repeatedly in this video. We are adjusting the column, we are adjusting the row. Okay, do not forget to submit printout showing, I think I need to make this full. Okay, showing the formula used. Check that you have walked through the sections on displaying formula near the side of the slide. So ensure that your printer is showing the formula and your formulas are clearly visible. And please ensure your printouts, what are your printouts, the ones you send to PDF, they contain your name, center number, and your candidate number. So this information is very important. All right. Thank you very much. And I hope you're able to learn a lot. It's a long video, but I would bet you dollar to donut, this is going to be worth your time. Thank you. And I'll see you in our next one. Bye for now.